Your Nissan Altima has 80,000 miles on it. One morning, you accelerate onto the highway and the engine revs to 5,000 revolutions per minute. But the car doesn't speed up. It just sits there, screaming like a treadmill set too high. Then the check engine light blinks. Then the car shakes. And then nothing. Limp mode. You're doing 40 miles per hour on the shoulder with a transmission that just committed suicide in real time. Welcome to CVT death. It's not a failure, it's a self-destruction sequence that starts the day you buy the car. A CVT, continuously variable transmission, looks like magic on paper. No gears, just two pulleys and a steel belt that squeezes wider or narrower to give you infinite ratios. It's smooth, it's efficient, and it can squeeze 40 miles per gallon out of a mid-size sedan. But there's a dirty secret hiding inside that aluminum case. A CVT is essentially a violin string trying to pull a 2-ton car. And violin strings don't like being stretched, overheated, or shocked. The steel belt inside your CVT is made of hundreds of individual steel elements, stacked like cards, held together by tension and hope. When everything is perfect, fluid temperature at 175 degrees, pulleys aligned to microscopic precision, torque within spec, that belt grips like a vise and transfers power smoothly, but perfection is fragile. And CVTs have a thermal death spiral that's almost poetic in its cruelty. Here's how the suicide starts. You're driving uphill on a hot day. Maybe you're towing a small trailer. Maybe you just have a heavy foot. The CVT starts working harder, generating heat. Unlike a traditional automatic transmission that can dump heat through its torque converter, a CVT relies on hydraulic pressure to clamp those pulleys onto the belt. As the temperature climbs past 200 degrees, the CVT fluid starts to thin out. It loses viscosity. Suddenly, the hydraulic pressure drops. The pulleys can't squeeze the belt tight enough. The belt starts to slip. Now you've entered the death loop. Slipping belt generates more friction. More friction creates more heat. More heat thins the fluid further. The pulleys slip more. The belt starts grinding microscopic grooves into the pulley faces. Those grooves fill with metal shavings. The shavings contaminate the fluid, turning it from lubricant into liquid sandpaper. Within 20 minutes, your transmission has gone from smooth operator to metal grinder. And the kicker? From the driver's seat, it still feels mostly fine. Maybe the engine revs hang a little higher. Maybe there's a slight vibration. But the rubber band feel masks the violence happening inside until it doesn't. The weakest link is that steel belt. In a traditional automatic, gears mesh together. Metal on metal. If you shock load it, the gears might complain, but they won't slip. In a CVT, if the belt loses grip for even a second, it skids across the pulley face like a burned clutch. And modern driving is brutal on belts. Picture this. You're at a stoplight. You rest your foot on the brake while you inch forward. The CVT is trying to engage, but you're holding it back. The belt is clamped, slipping microscopically, generating heat. Do this every day in traffic, and you're sandblasting your transmission from the inside out. Or worse, the launch. You floor it from a stoplight because the CVT feels slow. The engine screams to 6,000 revolutions per minute, while the belt scrambles to adjust. That sudden torque spike stretches the steel elements beyond their elastic limit. Micro cracks form. They don't fail immediately. They wait. They wait for a hot day. They wait for a hill. Then they propagate. Nissan learned this the hard way. Their Jatco CVTs, found in everything from the Altima to the Rogue, became infamous for judder. That's the polite term for your transmission is shaking itself to pieces. Owners would report a shudder at 40,000 miles. By 60,000, the transmission would refuse to engage. By 80,000, it was a paperweight. The problem? Nissan tried to handle too much torque with too small a belt. They optimized for fuel economy, not longevity. The CVT worked brilliantly on the EPA test cycle. Smooth, efficient, perfect. But in the real world, with real heat and real drivers, the belt couldn't survive. But here's what really kills CVTs: the fluid. Traditional automatics are forgiving. Use the wrong ATF, and it'll probably survive. CVTs are not forgiving. They need specific friction modifiers, chemicals that make the belt grip just enough to transfer power, but not so much that it sticks and snaps. Use regular automatic transmission fluid in a CVT, and you've signed its death warrant. The belt will grip too aggressively, overloading the pulley bearings, or it won't grip enough, causing constant slippage. Either way, within 500 miles, you've initiated catastrophic wear, and even the right fluid degrades fast. CVT fluid shears under stress. The molecular chains break down under the intense pressure of the pulley clamp. Once the fluid shears, the friction coefficient changes. The computer can't compensate. The belt starts slipping. The spiral begins. Some modern CVTs have external coolers, small radiators to shed heat, but many economy cars don't. They rely on the fluid capacity and hope. Hope that you don't live in Arizona. Hope that you don't tow. Hope that you don't drive like you're escaping a bank robbery. When that hope runs out, the CVT enters failsafe mode. The computer detects the slipping, the heat, the pressure loss, and it gives up. It defaults to a fixed ratio, usually second gear, and refuses to vary. Your car becomes a $25,000 mobility scooter. The transmission hasn't failed yet, but it's protecting itself from total annihilation. At that point, you have two choices: rebuild or replace. And CVTs don't rebuild well. Those pulleys are machined to micron-level precision. Once they're grooved, they're scrap. The belt is definitely scrap. The valve body is full of metal shavings. You're looking at $4,000, all because the fluid got too hot. So why do manufacturers keep building them? Why does Subaru put CVTs in everything? Why does Toyota use them in the Corolla? Because when they work, they're brilliant. A CVT keeps the engine in its power band perfectly. No hunting for gears. No shift shock. Just smooth acceleration and better fuel economy than a traditional automatic can dream of. But the margin for error is razor thin. A traditional automatic is like a sledgehammer. It can take abuse. A CVT is like a violin. Tune it perfectly, treat it gently, and it makes beautiful music. Drop it, neglect it, or play it too hard, and the strings snap. The tragedy is that most drivers don't know they have a CVT. They just know their car is laggy or weird. So they drive it harder, trying to force it to behave like a normal automatic. They floor it. They brake torque it. They skip the fluid changes because transmissions are sealed for life. They're not sealed. Nothing is sealed for life. Life just ends sooner than you think. If you have a CVT, here's the hard truth. It's already destroying itself. Very slowly. Microscopically. Every time you floor it from a stop. Every time you creep in traffic with your foot on the brake. Every summer day you spend in stop-and-go traffic. You're accelerating the wear. You can't stop it. You can only slow it down. Change the fluid every 30,000 miles. Not the 60,000 the manual claims. Install an external cooler if you live somewhere hot. Never rest your foot on the brake at a light, and for the love of all that is mechanical, never tow with a CVT unless it was specifically designed for it. Because once that belt starts to slip, once that whine starts, the CVT isn't just failing, it's committing suicide, and it's taking your wallet with it. That sound? That's the sound of precision engineering becoming precision scrap. And it's happening in driveways everywhere, one heat cycle at a time.